Hi, welcome to Following Historic Trails. Well, it's Christmas. Doesn't it look like it? And we have June Carpenter, who is our foremost toy collector. I'm sure I didn't realize all this stuff existed, June. And some of them I remember from my days, and I'm sure everybody that's watching today is going to be able to say, I had one of those, wish I had kept it. Tell us about how did you ever get into this business? I guess it's not a business, a hobby.
I suppose nostalgia. And about 10 years ago, I was in Vancouver and I went to a flea market and I found a little rubber cow and he was smiling. One of those little rubber cows with the squeaker was on the outside, so it was quite an old one because they haven't done that for maybe 40 or 50 years. And he was just so intriguing, and so I was enthralled with him, so I thought I would just save a few little tiny toys, just small things.
Mm-hmm.
And I started out with an old-fashioned bookcase, about 4 feet tall and 3 feet wide. That's all I was going to have. But it spread a little bit. Now I have 2 walls in one room and 2 walls in the basement.
Well, we better start talking about it. You didn't bring the cow with the squeaker on the outside.
No, I didn't. No, he's very fragile now, and I keep him wrapped up. And
well, you must be having to learn ways of preserving this.
I do. Mm-hmm.
Okay, where should we start?
This little doll is the oldest one I have.
Mm-hmm. I hope the camera
1830.
What is that head made out of?
She's all wooden.
Oh.
And made on a lathe. The body and the head are on a lathe. You can see the hole in the back top of her head.
Mm-hmm.
And I can just about date her within 20 years because can you see the 2 colors of the hair?
Oh yeah, right.
On her head?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
They did that between 1820 and 1840. And I think the lighter colored hair is supposed to be the hair that's pulled back. And then this other hair is the hair that grows there. But she has movable arms and she has joints. And she's called a penny doll. And I think she was made in Wales or probably England. Penny dolls, I think they got the name. It was a cottage industry in England. People, after they did their day's work, they'd sit around the table at night and carve these dolls. Then they would take them to a distribution point, and they got 5 farthings for a dozen dolls. And I think a farthing was 2 pennies.
Is that right?
So
where did you get it?
Well, I got her from an antique dealer.
Mm-hmm.
And he had got it from an English lady, and it was hers. And she was selling up quite a few of her things. So it is an English doll. These are, the first carved wooden dolls were very beautiful, very well done. And as they were the toys of the more common children, not the rich people. And this one is, they were still quite well carved when she was made because her nose.
Around a bit so they can maybe see the face on
her nose is carved out. After, when they were turning them out at a great rate, they were just flat.
Oh.
And they were just flat backs. But the first ones had fingers carved. And they were only painted where it showed, just up to this far. And her legs, I think her clothing is pretty well 1850, 1830.
Right?
Except for her dress, and I think she got a new dress about the turn of the century.
You know, she looks cranky, if you don't mind me saying so.
Well,
maybe she was the old witch, no?
No. I think they all look like that. Queen Victoria had 159 of them.
Is that
of
right?
these.
Now, would they all look a little different? I guess
Oh
if
yes,
they're
because they're all individually
yeah,
carved.
that's right, yeah.
I think there were factories in Germany, but it was a factory, but hand workers.
Right. Well, we better move on. We got a lot of territory here. We'll let Sweetiekin's right next to her. How about?
Oh, she's a sweet doll, and her head was made by Armand Marseille. It's signed, and about it's got a number on it, 390, and the 390 series was made in 1892. And
Can we
I
turn it
think
around here?
her body is Kid, made by Kestner of Germany. And I can date that pretty well exactly because this joint in her knee is called the universal knee joint. And it was made, the patent was taken out in 1895.
So you've had a lot of fun doing research on these, haven't you?
Well, toys are just a little miniature bit of history. And if you can find, her dress and her clothes are modern.
Mm-hmm.
And so are her arms. Her arms had disappeared.
What about the hair? Is that the original
I
hair?
think it's a new wig.
Yeah.
I had the body, and a friend of mine gave me the body, just the body, and another friend who's president of the Doll Club in Vancouver, had the head.
Mm-hmm.
She hasn't got sleeping eyes,
Oh yeah. Mm-hmm.
but she's got glass eyes. I think she's very pretty.
Where do you find out all your information in books like this?
Book, not that one. That's more of just a price list. But there's lots of books about dolls.
Is that right?
Mm-hmm.
Well, let's go into some of these other items. No, before we leave the dolls, there's.
Oh, that's Bobby Shafto. And he was made about.
Could you pick Bobby up, do you think? I don't know if you can reach. Is that the head? It's got a head on both sides.
Well, yes, he's two-sided.
Oh, my.
And he's stuffed with cork. I know that because he had a little hole, and I sewed it up. And he's stuffed with fine little bits of cork. And he would be about 1885.
Now, would I be correct if I said that maybe those dolls there were for the elite and this was the poor man's doll?
Well, Penny wasn't. She was a commoner doll. And, you know, the children before the Industrial Revolution in the 1700s and the early 1800s, children were treated not as children to have toys, but they were treated like little adults.
Mm-hmm.
They were expected to go and work in factories.
Mm-hmm.
It was a difficult life for children.
Mm-hmm.
But
well, that's pretty cuddly, I guess.
You find lots of things when you're doing a little research into toys. These were printed on a sheet and then cut out and stuffed and sewn up and stuffed. And of course, they couldn't be printed like that until lithography was invented, which was in 1880.
So that's how it helps you date it, doesn't it? All right, where do we go from here?
The little stove is, I'd say, the turn of the century.
And that would be
It's tin,
tin.
and it's got little tin.
And all those are part of
buckets and
the same set, eh?
No, I think this little aluminum thing is
aluminum
older.
frame.
It has writing on the bottom.
Mm-hmm. Well, some cities, it has Brandon, Calgary, etc. Malleable Steel Range Company.
The two little dolls at the front are Doll's House dolls. They're made of cast metal. They're heavy. But they were just made to sit in the doll's house.
Oh, yeah.
And those are mid-Victorian.
Some card games, Snap. Now that sounds familiar. Let me just pick it up if I can. Snap.
This is an English game. There's a lot of English toys that have been brought down.
And of course, a lot of these have newer versions, don't they?
Oh, yes. But I'm amazed at how well kept these are and well preserved.
Yeah, let's see if we can just show the people the pictures on on the front. The game that I remember is Old Maid. We used to play that all the time. In fact, that's about as far on cards as I ever got. Aren't those delightful? Now, I see you had a little tag in here. Is this where you've done your research and then you've just written down some information on it so that you...
Well,
that's a good idea.
actually, I've had 2 or 3 shows. I had a show at the museum a few years ago, and
it says an amusing round game. What does that mean? People get around a table and play it? Is this what they mean?
You know how to play snap, but this is what, or it goes from one to another. I think that's what they meant by a round game.
Now I see some marbles here. Those are interesting looking marbles.
They're clay marbles. We used to call them dubs.
Marbles the game doesn't seem to be as popular. You know, that almost looks like a candy. Should I try it?
No. And there's a steely.
Steely, right? Okay. Now I remember marbles that looked something like this. It came out during the war, but I guess it was clay marbles that they had.
They're still clay marbles with a little bit of paint in. They found clay marbles in Egyptian tombs.
Is that right?
Yes, so that's 4,000 or 5,000 years ago. And I think they were probably playthings.
Looks like they were just rolled by hand, but...
Yes, well, it was just little bits of clay that were left over from if they were making pots and pottery and little bits. And they would roll them, and I guess they'd fire them. And
these are hand-painted on the outside, is this
what? I think so.
Like
they look like it. I haven't tried to wash them.
Okay, and a sewing machine. There's the original Singer.
This one is Singer sewing machine was invented in 1860. You know, the big one.
Was this
and
a Singer?
Toy? I don't think it's Singer.
You would think
it's
it would
an
be
English
a
one.
good promotion.
The same lady that sold the doll, that was her sewing machine. And
they actually worked, did it?
Toy, it still works if you thread it and put a needle in it.
You can turn it around and it goes. I don't know if the camera can show that or not. Well, I'm glad to see that your husband Jim, you know, didn't put a lot of money into new sewing machines.
It's 1880. Toy machines were made. 1860 was when the Singer sewing machine was made, the big one, and 1880 were when toy ones started to be made.
Looks like it was nailed down to something.
Oh yes, otherwise you'd have to hold it to turn that handle.
That's right, yeah. Pit. Now there's another game that I think they still have modern versions out.
That's.
You were mentioning something about the. Even has the directions in it.
Oh yes. And I think the copyright is 1919.
Says the jolliest game ever invented for an informal good time. Well, what do you know?
Better than bridge.
I don't play bridge, so I wouldn't know. Now, an elephant.
Those are celluloid. And there's a little celluloid doll there.
These are the ones that'll walk down the ramp or whatever. Is that right?
Yeah. And they're, you know, the thing I remembered about celluloid was the smell of it. Those don't smell very much now, but they were made with camphor.
Is that right?
And I remember when the Woolworth store was on 5th Street, and you'd go in there, this was probably in the 1920s, and they had bins of celluloid dolls. The counters had bins on them, and two for a nickel, and 10 cents, 15 cents.
I don't know if you'd know, but do they still have celluloid toys around?
No, since 1966. It's very inflammable. Since 1966, it's been banned.
I see.
For toys, anyway. Yeah. I don't think they use it for anything else.
And also, if it cracked, it could be, if the child chewed it or something, you know?
Yes, oh yes. They were dangerous, I suppose.
I think the first toy
But they were an early plastic, celluloid
right.
was.
You had a plastic toy here, but it may not be here right now. All right, this one is that rubber?
Well, I think so.
It's sort of
sometimes it's hard to tell. But This is, of course, Mickey Mouse.
Of course.
And that's about in 1841. Mickey Mouse was invented by Walt Disney in 1928.
So it couldn't be 1840 then.
Oh,
1940.
1940.
Yes.
Okay. And this is one of the first Mickey Mouses. His ears just are flopped over. And they aren't the round ears like...
Well, they switched, eh?
Well, he's evolved through the years.
That's right.
He doesn't look a bit like that now. He's wooden.
This is wood too, eh?
No, I think that's composition. You can see where it's worn off a bit.
Yeah.
Composition. That's wood shavings or wood pulp, paper pulp, and glue.
Now it looks to me like he's been restored, if you don't mind.
No,
saying
I don't
so.
think so. Mm-mm.
Is that right? Would it just be that this composition maybe deteriorates faster?
Yes, faster than the wood.
Oh, I see. Yeah, very popular guy, Mickey. I hope I can get him to stand up.
All the early Walt Disney things are very collectible, worth a lot of money.
Well, maybe we should go into business here.
You bet.
All right, some dominoes. White dominoes?
The first dominoes were white, and those are handmade. It's a little hard to date those because they're handmade. There's nothing. They're ebony and bone. Not ivory, they're bone and ebony. Put together with a copper rivet, and they're handmade.
Isn't that, somebody had a little drill and
Mm-hmm.
probably a hand drill in those days, eh? Even has the directions in there as well.
No.
There's something in there. Maybe it's $1,000 bill.
Or it might have been just to keep them from rattling.
Mm-hmm.
I think probably.
Well, here we are. What does that mean to you? It's a code.
I don't know.
Japanese,
I don't know
soldiers,
what it
horse,
is.
cars. Where would these have...
Oh, I know what that is. It's for another game.
Aha.
A Chinese game. Chinese dominoes.
Oh, okay.
And Jim has the Chinese dominoes game. That's just in the wrong box.
Well, we'll do that in another show. Stay tuned. All right. Now, dominoes, where was it invented? Have you any idea? I'm going to leave that out.
Oh, I don't know. But I think probably the Chinese did.
Mm-hmm. Okay, the game of authors. Now, that sounds pretty intellectual.
That's an English game, and in late 1890s.
Get Barnum's Greatest Show on Earth, new instructive toy.
But all the cards are there. The box is pretty well worn, but all the cards are still there.
It's an olden days Trivial Pursuit, maybe?
Sort of, yes.
See, they've got Oliver Wendell Holmes. Oops. Nicholas Nickleby. And you're supposed to guess what stories these came from.
That's right. Or who wrote them.
Yeah.
Oliver
It'd be kind
Twist.
of a fun thing, wouldn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, Legend of
It
Sleepy
is.
Hollow. Great fun. Ah, the tank. Now, you know, I had a toy like that, and I'm just a young fellow. We all know that. But you say this is from the First World War?
Mm-hmm.
Well, they must have kept the mold and had a lot of wooden toys in the Second World War. Not the same mold.
Oh, I'm sure they
Yeah.
did.
Yeah.
But we know exactly about that because it's got the manufacturer's name on the bottom. Bell
Oh,
of United States.
Oh, yeah, right there.
And it's been documented.
The,
And of course, it was made during the First World War because metal was so scarce,
that's right.
made out of wood
And of course, tanks were tried out on a trial basis in the First
during
World
the war.
War. Yeah.
That's right.
Teddy bears.
Ah,
Now, I guess they're the in thing again, aren't they?
oh yes. There's a great story about how teddy bears started. Teddy Roosevelt, this was in 1903, was on a hunting trip, and some of his attendants thought to please him, they captured a little bear cub, and tied it to a tree, and told him to, you can shoot it, and then you'd have the evidence. of course, he was highly indignant and wouldn't do it. And this story got into the American press. And Steiff of Germany were the first ones to take advantage of that, and they made the first and the most teddy bears, and the ones that are most valuable now.
Mm-hmm.
You can tell an early Steiff bear before 1920. They have a seam down the middle of their face, right down the middle of their face. It's hard to, this one is not that early, but you can tell them.
Mm-hmm.
And they were made, this is a quite typical size.
No,
The oldest one that I've ever seen is only 7 inches long, and he is 5.5 inches.
Now, is this a Steiff?
We don't know for sure, but it could be, because it's mohair, and he's got movable arms and legs,
Mm-hmm.
and we think he's about 50 years old.
Mm-hmm.
The lady that gave it to me said it was hers, and she would be maybe 60. So she said it was hers.
Now, how does that compare with this bear here?
That is a little promotion that Steiff made about 2 years ago.
So
But what is interesting is this little button in his ear. All the Steiff toys, they made bears mostly, but they made other animals too, have a button in their ear.
So they're still in business then?
Oh,
huh?
yes. Mm-hmm.
Where did you pick this
in
one up?
Germany. Oh, in Vancouver.
Oh, I see. And are they still, is that, I don't know my...
That's mohair.
That's mohair, is
Mm-hmm.
it?
And so is the other little bear.
Aha, what do we have in this? Let me guess.
Well, the bank itself is quite interesting. It's cast metal, white metal. It's about 1905. And banks are very collectible, especially the ones that do things like a clown would doff its hat when you put a penny in.
Mm-hmm.
This was just a still bank, but they're interesting.
When you say they're very collectible, do you mean that they fetch high prices, this type of thing? How is the market doing these days? Going up or down, or?
Oh, just like with all antique things, they usually go up a little.
But they've had a little dip
They're
in the
worth
last...
what you want to pay for them or what you can get them for, you know.
Yeah. Okay, marbles, that's what it is.
Mm-hmm. And those are glass marbles.
Now
They
that's
used to
interesting.
call, in mid-Victorian days, they made marbles for a long time. They were made from glass blowing, just like the clay marbles were little pieces of clay left over. Well, a lot of the glass marbles were not blown as marbles. They were, after the day's work was done and there was some left over, they would shape them.
So you get some interesting designs.
That's a bouncer, they called it.
Could I ask you how they ever get that design inside
I have
the marble?
no idea.
Probably some of our listeners know.
Sometime I'll find out about that.
Do they still make marbles?
Oh,
around?
yes. Mm-hmm.
The game doesn't seem to be as popular as it once was.
They were playing it at the Catholic school. It's on 14th Avenue and Assumption School. They were having marble contests in the...
Well, I see that outdoor rinks are coming back, so
Sure.
marbles will be back for sure. All right, jacks. I never did know much about this game.
Oh, that was a fun game. And I brought those. They are heavy. They are the old jacks that we used to play with. Jackstones is a very, very old game. There's pictures on some of the frescoes in Egyptian tombs with the girls playing, but they called it knuckle bones then. And I don't know if they used knuckle bones, but probably. And they threw them up in the air and caught them. But then when we played jacks, we used a ball and threw the ball up in the air, and you had to play onesies and twosies and threesies and doubles.
Too bad we don't have room on the table for you to demonstrate how you do this.
I don't think I could do it anymore. But they still have modern jacks, but they're light, very light. Probably made of aluminum.
Probably not as good, for sure.
Oh, no. They don't feel right. I tried to play with them. They don't feel right.
Here's a little teacup. Boy, oh boy, what's the story on this?
It's pewter.
Oh, my. Part of a set, I take it, eh?
Well, no, I've only got one. That's it. Now, I've never seen any other pewter things, but There probably is.
Wind me up, watch me roll over.
But he doesn't roll very good. But that's Pluto. And Walt Disney made him in
Of course
1939.
I know Pluto.
You know Pluto.
Oh, yes. And this is the thing that made him roll over, I take
Yes,
it, eh?
uh-huh.
How did that work?
Well, it pushes against the floor,
Oh, yeah.
and then he turns over like that,
Oh.
lands up, and he goes right over.
1939, Walt Disney
Mhm.
Productions.
Mhm.
Boy, they were popular shows in those.
Well, all those things, as mechanical toys, tin toys,
Mhm.
they are the thing. It goes in cycles, and some things are popular now, and then popular for another time. Like teddy bears are popular.
Yeah.
Tin toys are very popular now. Mechanical tin toys.
Of course, this would be 39, and within a couple of years, tin toys were out, and they were back to blocks of wood, weren't they? Well, we've pretty well looked it over. You know, we haven't hit the sand machine, and we hope that people are inspired to stay with us for next week, because we're going to continue on. And I hear rumors that I'm going to have a stocking at Christmas, and it's going to be full of toys, and I can hardly wait.
Well, you better be a good boy.
So we'll see you next week, and meantime, follow some historic trails.